What if I told you that your skills don't really matter nearly as much as you think? Of course, you need to know the game and play relatively well, but to play at the top, you might not actually need to be the best. For example, consider the opposite. Imagine spending 10,000 hours grinding your skills in a game, climbing to the highest rank, and then spending another 5 to 10,000 hours slowly inching your way up the leaderboard until you're considered one of the best in the world. Then consider if, despite all your time and skill, that you never actually get picked up by a pro team. Well, this actually happens quite a lot. Players at the top of the leaderboard can easily get passed up for someone who just has a bit more experience playing on a top tier team or winning certain tournaments. And if you are just one player, a small portion of a multi-man team, then it's really easy for you to get weighed down by others despite all your hard work. So you can become among the best in the world, yet still never make it onto a pro team. Yet those who are vastly less skilled can climb onto tier 2 and then even tier 1 teams with ease. But luckily for you, you can actually take advantage of this. You can use this as a sort of shortcut to the top. And that shortcut that I'm referring to is the team that you choose and how you build the dynamics on that team. Now, let me explain. Consider incredible rosters of all-star players that completely failed. Despite having tons of talent, they just couldn't seem to really pull it together. But then consider the opposite of that. Lots of underdog rookies thrown onto a team with low expectations who then blow everyone away. Or consider even a third example, a player who makes their mark and dominates a game for years, but then when they switch teams or their roster changes, they can't seem to ever reclaim that glory. Now, what all of these show us is that the team and dynamics that underlie it are often more important than the skill level of the players on it. But what does this have to do with you and your journey to the top of esports? Well, if winning and racking up tournament successes is largely brought on by team dynamics, then by focusing on building those team dynamics within any team that you play on will help you to rack up more wins, build a track record of success, and catch the attention of better and better teams. So, in this video, I want to teach you how this all works and how you can take advantage of it to turn any team that you're on into a powerhouse of wins, pumping out victories and carrying you higher and higher towards the top of esports. Team dynamics might just be the key to your esports career, but pulling a team together and keeping them together can be quite difficult. Fortunately, sports psychology has given us fascinating insights into extraordinary team chemistry and how it's achieved. Now, if you're not on a team yet, then don't worry. Learning about this information now will be extremely helpful for you making it work in the future. And if you are on a team now, then I recommend putting each of these steps into action right away. Now, the first thing to address is the thing that tears most teams apart, and that is toxicity. Sports psychologists have identified several informal roles and personalities within esports, two of which are often the core cause of toxicity. Now, these kinds of players either need to be closely managed so that they don't become too toxic, or they should be replaced as soon as possible. Now, the first of these players is the person who tries to find excuses to do as little work as possible. They'll regularly skip training or team meetings by over-exaggerating their illness or injury. They'll often play the victim. Now, the second kind are those players who typically are quite talented and skilled at the game, but lack any self-awareness to put the team before them. They usually pick fights and stray away from the game plan in order to risk it for personal glory and looking good themselves. Now, if you're in a position to pick your teammates, it's important to watch for laziness or a lack of self-awareness. While we usually pick for talent and skill level first, a highly skilled yet toxic player will destroy team cohesion. And if you're already on a team and someone's showing toxic behavior, then the key is to help create a culture of self-awareness and work ethic. Consider even adding a step during team reviews where everyone on the team analyzes their own plays and admits openly to their personal mistakes and their next steps to fix them. But by just solving the toxicity problem, it won't mean that you and your team are going to be pulled together yet. Fortunately, nothing brings and keeps a team together much like a common goal, one that you're all super motivated by and one that you need each other to achieve. Now, previous videos on my channel have laid out the value of setting realistic goals in order to move up the ranks. But before you do that, I want you to challenge you and your team to identify your vision. Now, another way to think of this is what leadership expert Simon Sinek calls your why. To define your why, you can begin by calling a meeting and asking your teammates, why are we here? What is the real reason that we're putting in so much time and effort? And I challenge you and your team to think beyond just trophies and prize money. Consider the personal reasons that you each have, as well as the legacy you all want to leave behind for your team. As an example of legacy, the Rocket League team, Sandrock Gaming, set out not only to become one of the world's most dominant teams, but to also pave the way for other teams in the Middle East and North Africa to play on the big stage. Now, as a result of them, it's far more easier and far less obstacles for teams in the MENA region to compete in RLCS events. So, when you consider your team's vision, consider what impact you have. It could even be as simple as inspiring young players with your work ethic, or it could be as big as solving a major problem that's holding back the industry. But by having a vision, it will be a powerful motivator and a good reason for your team to keep pushing through difficult times and stick together as you battle towards the top. Then, after establishing a motivating vision, the next step is to set goals for the team and each player. Begin by asking everyone on the team what they think you should all work towards, when things will happen, and how you'll prepare. These goals can be specific tournaments or other milestones that demonstrate your team's progress. And once that's done, spend time establishing each teammate's individual goals. These goals might tie into that team's overall goal discussed before. For example, let's say that your team's goal is to qualify for a major esports event that's taking place next year. You then brainstorm what weaknesses each member of the team has, which could then result in losses along the way. One member of the team might, as an example, have amazing reflexes and tactical awareness, but lacks communication skills and needs to be able to lead your team through hard plays. He would then have to work on that communication and leadership ability. And this leads us into how you practice together. Now, when it comes to what you practice, the key is to be deliberate and purposeful. Too many teams just play the game repeatedly together and expect that they'll suddenly get better and more cohesive as a team. But your team's performance starts with team practice. During your practice, you should create a clear structure of what you will work on and why. Then you'll need to make sure that you have time for scrims, drills, and of course, VOD or demo reviewing as a team. Now, this last aspect requires a lot of your focus, not only for discovering individual mistakes and weaknesses, but for analyzing where you lost effective communication or weren't in sync with one another. And you guys will learn a lot from this, from focusing on your team dynamics and team mistakes rather than just individual mistakes. But when you identify a specific situation that caused your team a problem, how do you then practice it? Well, in traditional sports, you can just get on the field and kind of set up a drill to simulate it. And in some games, you can do the same kind of thing. You can set up a similar situation in custom games and run through it again. Unfortunately, this isn't always possible. But there's a solution to this, one that most teams don't even know about, but will help your team play better together. If you can't simulate something in-game, then do so through a group imagery technique. To better prepare for your games as a team, simply sit together and have everyone in your team close their eyes. Then your coach or team captain or in-game leader can then explain the scenario that you want to practice for. They'd explain which map that you're playing, who in the team has been killed, the weapons you have, the status of the opponents, and so on. One at a time, you and your team can then roleplay, visualizing and verbalizing what you do in that scenario. And walk through it slowly, communicating along the way so that you're all on the same page. The coach or captain can then interject with suggestions on changing strategy or can progressively make the situation more difficult by adding in extra information or variables. While it may be a bit strange to try at first, it will be an amazing tool to help you and your team pre-plan your strategies and collective decision-making far more than any basic VOD reviewing. For more information on visualization and why it works so well, I also recommend checking out our other videos on the channel about it. Now, there's one more key ingredient if you want to build a dominant team. Sports psychologist and author Justice Potgieter writes, "When team members remain on the same team for an extended period of time, the team is more cohesive and consequently successful. The relationships between cohesion and stability is reciprocal. The longer the team has been together, the more cohesive it becomes and the less chance of members leaving." And this makes sense because if you spend a lot of time with your teammates, you'll typically get to understand more and more about them. And this includes their strengths and weaknesses in the game, their needs when under pressure, and how well to communicate with them. But in esports, most teams are constantly disbanding or turning over their roster. As a result, they're missing out on one of the greatest ways to create team cohesion and improve the odds of winning. But this doesn't have to be the case for you. A 2010 study identified several factors which reduce team turnover and therefore increase team stability. They found that regular communication between the team increased stability by 14 and 24%, and role clarity increased the team stability by 25%. Factors which reduced stability were stress, which reduced it by 16%, and team conflict, which reduced it by 22%. What this suggests is that in order to maintain your team's longevity, ensure that you're always working on clear communication and role clarity through having regular team meetings. In these meetings, make time to touch base and make sure that you're all on the same page and know what to do to contribute. Then, take it even a step further and be there to support each other during times of stress. If conflict within the team arises, try to sort it out as quickly as possible and be quick to forgive and always remember the bigger picture, the vision that you're all striving for. So, while most players will focus solely on their individual skills and that solo grind to the top, you can be one of the few who take this shortcut. All you have to do is focus on being the glue of your team. If you join a new team or build one yourself, be sure to really emphasize these aspects of team dynamics. You'll need to first root out toxicity, then set team visions and goals, continue to optimize your team's practice and situational planning, and ensure that there's a culture of team stability. Once this is all in place, the rest will come quite easily. Your team will confidently face off against all-star teams who lack that cohesion. You'll rack up win after win, building even more cohesion and momentum as you go, and you'll begin to carry each other towards the top of esports. Hey guys, I hope you absolutely loved this video. If you did, and you want to support the channel, then feel free to check out the Esports Elite course. It's basically a 66-day challenge set up to help you learn better and become better as a player. Use a lot of science and psychology and a lot of really nerdy things that, quite honestly, will give you a massive advantage over other players. So if you're super serious about ranking up and improving your skills, I recommend checking it out. Otherwise, if you just want to see more from the channel, then there's tons of free content right here. So I recommend checking out some of the playlists. I'll link one in the comments below in the pinned comment. And otherwise, if you want to keep sticking around for more content, then feel free to hit that notification bell. It's one of the best ways to support the channel. It's one of the best ways for you to stay up to date on what's next. So again, I hope you guys loved the video. I hope you keep on enjoying your grinds, and I'll see you all in the next video.